Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine this. A people, generations living in exile, suddenly told they can go home. But not just home, home to rebuild their entire spiritual center from ruins. Can you picture that? The hope, the fear, just the sheer effort involved.
It's a really powerful image. A community that's been through so much loss, suddenly getting this chance to start over almost.
Exactly. And today, you're going to dive deep with us into this truly remarkable slice of history. We're pulling it straight from these ancient texts, and this isn't just about, laying bricks.
No, not at all. It's really about the rebirth of a whole community, their identity, their faith, their way of governing themselves, all after this just devastating loss.
So our mission today is to unpack this incredible journey, the Jewish exiles coming back from Babylon to Jerusalem. We'll look at the surprising support they got from the empire.
Right, but also the really fierce opposition they ran into, and crucially, the internal struggles. Big ones, as they tried to reestablish themselves, rebuild the temple.
We'll trace how these different Persian kings kind of shaped their destiny and how the people themselves really wrestled with these huge questions about who they were and what their future looked like.
Big questions indeed.
Okay, let's dive in. Our sources kick things off with this decree that must have just sounded unbelievable at the time. Imagine you're in exile in Babylon.
Yeah.
And King Cyrus of Persia, the most powerful ruler around, he makes an announcement. And it's not just you can go home, it's you can go home and I'll help pay to rebuild your temple.
It's striking, isn't it? The source says Cyrus felt moved by the Lord and that God had given him all the kingdoms of the earth specifically to build this temple.
Wow.
So it's like way beyond just tolerance. It's active sponsorship.
Yeah.
He tells people everywhere, if there are survivors nearby, help them out. Silver, gold, goods, animals, free will offerings for the temple.
Yeah.
He's not just permitting it, he's actively encouraging it.
And the people respond. You see the leaders' family heads from Judah and Benjamin, priests, Levites, described as people whose heart God had moved. They get ready to go. And their neighbors, they actually help them, give them valuable gifts on top of the other offerings. It feels like this real collective push.
It really does. And adding to that, King Cyrus brings out the actual items that Nebuchadnezzar looted from the first temple years before.
Oh, right. Sacred vessels.
Exactly. The sources list them out. Gold dishes, silver pans, gold bowls. I mean, the specifics are there, but the key thing is the sheer number. 5,400 articles of gold and silver.
That's incredible.
And they're carefully counted out to this guy, Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah, to take back. It's this huge symbolic act, restoring not just wealth, but their sacred heritage.
So it's this massive organized return. And the sources, they give us these incredibly detailed lists of who came back. Not just names, but like family groups, towns, priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers.
The level of detail is amazing.
Yeah, and the numbers are just staggering. The total count is 42,360 people. Plus, get this, over 7,000 servants and 200 singers.
Wow.
And they brought animals, hundreds of horses, hundreds of mules, camels, thousands of donkeys. It's like a whole nation on the move.
But this huge return immediately brings up this really critical issue of identity. Who actually belongs?
Yeah.
The records show that some people, about 650 of them, couldn't prove they were actually Israelites. Their family records weren't clear.
So what happened to them?
They were essentially excluded. And even some priestly families had the same problem. Couldn't find their lineage records. They were declared unclean and barred from the priesthood.
Ouch.
Yeah. The governor actually ordered them not to eat the sacred food until the priest could consult the Urim and Thummim, these objects used for divine guidance. It just shows how incredibly important documented lineage and purity were for them.
Okay, so they arrive. What's the first thing they do? The sources say they get to work pretty fast.
They do. In the 7th month, they all gather in Jerusalem. And even though they're scared of the people already living around there,
Understandable.
Jeshua and Zerubbabel, the leaders, they immediately build the altar. Start making sacrifices morning and evening before the temple foundation is even laid.
That says a lot about their priorities, doesn't it? Worship first.
Absolutely. Reconnecting with God through sacrifice was paramount, even with everything else uncertain. Then, about a year and a half later, they finally lay the temple foundation.
And that scene sounds incredibly emotional.
Oh, completely. Priests with trumpets, Levites with cymbals, praising God, lots of shouting for joy. But then it says, many of the older priests and Levites and family heads who had seen the former temple wept aloud.
Wow. Joy and grief, side by side.
Exactly. And the text even says no one could distinguish the sound of the shouts of joy from the sound of weeping because the people made so much noise. Imagine that soundscape. Profound loss mixed with this overwhelming hope.
What a moment. Okay, so the foundation's down, emotions are high, but it sounds like things didn't stay positive for long.
No, they hit a major roadblock pretty quickly. These enemies of Judah and Benjamin, the people living in the area, they hear about the rebuilding.
And they weren't happy.
Well, first they actually offered to help. They claimed they worshipped the same God.
Oh. So why didn't the returning exiles accept?
Zerubbabel and the leaders refused. They insisted, basically, we build this alone, as King Cyrus told us to. It was about maintaining their distinct identity, their religious purity.
Okay, I can see that. But I bet that refusal didn't go over well.
It really didn't. It turned those neighbors into active opponents. The sources say they immediately started trying to discourage the builders, make them afraid. They even hired advisors to actively work against the project and frustrate their plans for years.
So it wasn't just local harassment, it got official.
Oh, yeah. It escalated.
Yep.
They wrote letters to the next Persian king, Artaxerxes, accusing Jerusalem of being a rebellious and wicked city.
Playing the politics card.
Exactly. They warned the king, if they rebuild this city and its walls, you won't get any more taxes or tribute from this region. Your royal revenues will suffer. And they reminded him Jerusalem had this history of rebellion.
Smart, if cynical. How did the king react?
Well, you have to remember how empires worked. Kings were very sensitive to potential rebellion, especially if it impacted taxes.
Sure.
Artaxerxes took it seriously, ordered a search of the royal archives.
Did they find anything?
They did. The archives confirmed Jerusalem did have a long history of revolt against kings. Rebellion and sedition, the records say.
Oh.
Yeah. Based on that, Artaxerxes issued an order. Stop the work immediately. The city is not to be rebuilt until I so order.
And was the order enforced?
With force. The sources say the officials went immediately to the Jews in Jerusalem and compelled them by force to stop.
Okay.
Everything just stopped. The temple work came to a complete halt.
For how long?
Until the second year of the next king, Darius. So a significant delay.
But eventually they started again.
Yes, but only after more divine prompting. The prophets Haggai and Zechariah started prophesying, really pushing the people, encouraging them to resume the work, framing it as God's will.
So they got inspired again.
They did. Zerubbabel and Jeshua, with the prophets backing them, they restart the rebuilding.
Which probably didn't go unnoticed.
Right. The local governor, Tatnai, he steps in again. Asks them, basically, who authorized you to do this? Especially after the last king shut it down.
How did they respond this time? Were they scared?
Actually, they sound remarkably confident. They identify themselves as servants of the God of heaven and earth, rebuilding the temple a great king of Israel built long ago. Right. And crucially, they cite Cyrus's original decree.
Going back to the first permission slip?
Exactly. And they basically challenged Tatnai. They asked King Darius to search his archives to confirm Cyrus's order. It was a bold move, appealing over the local governor's head directly to the emperor.
A gamble. Did Darius do it?
He did. Ordered the search. And incredibly, they found it. A scroll, a memorandum in Ecbatana confirming Cyrus's decree.
No way.
Yes. And it had details, the temple dimensions, 90 feet high, 90 feet wide. And critically, it confirmed the costs were supposed to be paid by the royal treasury and that the gold and silver items should be returned.
So, complete vindication. What did Darius do then?
This is where it gets really interesting. Darius doesn't just confirm it. He issues this incredibly forceful new edict.
Oh, stronger than Cyrus's.
Much stronger in its enforcement. He tells Tatnai and the other officials, stay away, do not interfere. He orders them to pay the builder's expenses fully from the royal revenues of that region so the work won't stop.
Wow, complete turnaround.
And there's more. He mandates they provide daily supplies for the temple sacrifices, bulls, rams, lambs, wheat, salt, wine, oil, whatever the priest needed.
Why would he go that far?
The text gives the reason. So the priest can offer sacrifices pleasing to God and significantly pray for the well-being of the king and his sons. It's that imperial pragmatism again, support the local cult, ensure divine favor for the empire.
Makes sense from his perspective.
And get this, the penalty for disobeying Darius's edict. Anyone who changes it will have a beam pulled from their own house, be impaled on it, and their house turned into rubble.
Whoa. He wasn't messing around.
Not at all. Absolute imperial authority backing the project now.
So with that kind of backing, they must have finished it pretty quickly.
They did. The temple was completed in the 6th year of King Darius's reign. Big celebration, dedication ceremony, lots of sacrifices, hundreds of bulls and rams, thousands of lambs. They set up the priests and Levites for service, celebrated Passover, a real high point after decades of struggle.
Okay, so the temple is finally rebuilt, the community is physically back, worship is restored. But that's not the end of the story in our sources, is it?
No, it shifts to a new chapter and a new leader, Ezra, described as a teacher well-versed in the law of Moses. And he arrives later, during the reign of that same King Artaxerxes who had previously stopped the work.
The plot thickens. What was Ezra's mission?
Artaxerxes gives Ezra this, honestly, almost unprecedented commission. The king grants him everything he asks for, because, as the text says, the hand of the Lord his God was on him.
So divine favor recognized by the emperor.
Seems like it. Artaxerxes issues a decree letting any Israelites who want to go with Ezra, including priests and Levites, do so. He sends Ezra specifically to inquire about Judah and Jerusalem concerning the law of God. Ezra is basically a royal commissioner for religious affairs.
And the financial support, was it like before?
Even more staggering, perhaps. Artaxerxes tells Ezra to take silver and gold from the king and his advisors, plus offerings from Babylon. But then he orders the regional treasurers to give Ezra whatever he needs, up to 100 talents of silver.
Which is a huge amount.
Massive. Plus 100 cores of wheat, 100 baths of wine, 100 baths of oil again, large quantities and unlimited salt. It's like an open checkbook for the mission.
Why such generosity? Did the king explain his thinking again?
He did. He says, essentially, whatever the God of heaven wants for his temple, do it diligently. Why should his wrath be against my kingdom and my sons?
Ah, that same motivation. Keep the local god happy to protect the empire.
Exactly. Plus, Artaxerxes grants tax exemption to all temple personnel, priests, Levites, singers, everyone. And this is huge. He authorizes Ezra to appoint judges and magistrates to enforce God's law and the king's law, with penalties up to death or banishment for disobedience.
So Ezra has immense power, religious, legal, financial.
Immense. He's empowered to reshape the community according to the law.
So Ezra, feeling God's hand on him, gathers people to go. Another list in the sources.
Yep, another detailed list of families going with him. But then when they gather by the Ahava Canal to prepare for the journey, Ezra notices something alarming.
What's that?
There are no Levites among them. None. And Levites were essential for temple service according to the law.
A major oversight. How did he handle it?
He acts decisively, sends leaders to specifically recruit Levites and temple servants from a place where they were known to live. And as the text puts it, the gracious hand of our God was on us, and they succeeded. They brought back Levites and 220 temple servants.
Okay, crisis averted. But the journey itself was dangerous, right? Bandits, enemies.
Absolutely. They were carrying enormous wealth. But here's another fascinating point. Ezra doesn't ask the king for an armed escort.
Why not? He probably could have gotten one.
He says he was ashamed to ask because he'd already told the king, the gracious hand of our God is on everyone who looks to him. Asking for soldiers would look like he didn't really trust God for protection.
Wow. That's putting your faith on the line.
Totally. So instead, they fasted and prayed, asking God for a safe journey. And the text simply says, he answered our prayer.
Incredible. And they were carrying
just immense riches, 650 talents of silver, 100 talents of silver articles, 100 talents of gold, gold bowls, valuable bronze items. Ezra carefully weighs it all, entrusts it to specific priests and Levites, tells them to guard it carefully.
And they made it safely.
They did. Arrived in Jerusalem, delivered the treasure. God protected them, the text says.
Okay, so Ezra's arrived, the treasure is safe, the temple is functioning. Mission accomplished.
Not quite. Almost immediately after they settle in, a new crisis erupts. But this one isn't external opposition, it's internal.
What happened?
The leaders come to Ezra, deeply disturbed. They report that the people, including priests and Levites, hadn't kept themselves separate from the surrounding peoples. Specifically, they had married foreign women from these groups.
Intermarriage. Why was that seen as such a crisis?
Because the leaders saw it as mingling the holy race. They felt it violated God's command to remain distinct, and that it adopted the detestable practices of their neighbors. And worse, the leaders and officials themselves were apparently leading the way in this.
How did Ezra react to this news?
His reaction is incredibly dramatic. He tears his clothes, pulls hair from his head and beard, and just sits down, utterly appalled.
A very visual sign of grief and shock.
Absolutely. Then he offers this long, emotional prayer of confession. He acknowledges Israel's history of sin that led to exile, praises God's grace for allowing a remnant to return, but confesses they've again ignored God's commands about not intermarrying with these peoples he calls polluted.
He sounds genuinely afraid for their future.
He is. He basically asks God Are we going to break your commands again?
Yeah.
Won't you be angry enough to destroy us completely this time, leaving no one? He sees it as an existential threat.
This really brings up that tension, doesn't it? Between being a distinct community versus blending in.
Exactly. The core tension between maintaining covenant identity and assimilation. And Ezra's anguish clearly resonated. A huge crowd gathers around him, men, women, children, weeping bitterly with him.
So the community felt the weight of it too.
Deeply. Then one man, Shechaniah, stands up. He confesses their unfaithfulness, but says there is still hope, and he proposes a radical solution.
What was it?
He proposes they make a covenant with God to send away all these women and their children according to the law.
Send them away, the foreign wives and their children. That's harsh.
It's incredibly drastic, a painful, difficult decision reflecting how seriously they took this issue of purity and covenant boundaries.
Yeah.
Shechaniah urges Ezra to act, saying, "Let it be done according to the law."
Did Ezra agree?
He did. He immediately puts the leaders, priests, Levites, all of Israel under oath to do what Shechaniah proposed.
An oath to divorce their foreign wives and send them away.
Yes. Then a proclamation goes out. All returned exiles must assemble in Jerusalem within 3 days. Failure to appear meant losing all your property and being expelled from the community.
Serious consequences. Did everyone come?
They did. Gathered in Jerusalem, despite it being the rainy season. The text says they were greatly distressed, both by the situation and the pouring rain.
I can only imagine. What did Ezra say to them then?
He confronted them directly. "You have been unfaithful. You have married foreign women, adding to Israel's guilt." He commanded them, "Confess to God and separate yourselves from the local peoples and from your foreign wives."
How did the assembly respond?
They agreed in principle. "You are right. We must do as you say." But they also pointed out the practical problem. There were many such marriages. It was raining hard. It couldn't be dealt with in just a day or two. They proposed setting up leaders to investigate systematically, town by town.
A more orderly process then.
Right. A way to manage this massive, painful task. Ezra selected family heads, and they began this meticulous investigation.
How long did it take?
3 full months. From the first day of the 10th month to the first day of the first month. They went through all the cases.
And the sources list names again?
Yes, another long list naming specific men, priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers, other Israelites who had married foreign women.
And what was the outcome for them?
They all made a pledge to put away their wives, and they had to offer a ram as a guilt offering. The text ends this section starkly, noting that all these had married foreign women, and some of them had children by these wives.
Wow, it doesn't shy away from the human cost of that decision.
Not at all. It underscores the profound personal sacrifices involved in this effort to redefine and purify the community according to Ezra's understanding of the law.
What an incredible, intense story we've walked through. From that first almost unbelievable royal decree letting them return, to finally rebuilding the temple against all odds, facing down external enemies.
Right, the imperial back and forth.
And then turning inward to deal with this incredibly difficult issue of identity and purity is just packed with drama.
It really is. You see this fascinating interplay, don't you, between huge external forces like the Persian Empire, this constant sense of divine providence or guidance that they felt.
Yeah, the hand of God.
And the community's own internal drive, their will to reshape themselves, the detailed records, the emotional highs and lows, the sheer scale of the finances and logistics, and then this really uncompromising focus on the law. It paints such a vivid picture of people striving to reclaim who they are.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how communities are formed or reformed. It's not just about buildings. It's about shared purpose, shared struggles, and sometimes these incredibly tough choices.
Absolutely. Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Thinking about any community, ancient or modern, what are the costs and what are the benefits of trying to maintain a really distinct identity when you're surrounded by different cultures and pressures?
That's a tough one.
And maybe related to that, how do we, or how do they, weigh that need for collective identity or purity against, individual relationships, human ties, even family bonds? Where does that balance lie?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep getting well informed.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.